Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited to present Recruit and Retain, Create Your Best Workforce Yet with Jody B. Miller. So my company is called Strategic and Creative Marketing, and I will be covering the recruitment marketing and employment branding portion. And about 20 minutes from now, Jody Miller will cover more about culture and retention.
Hi, thanks, Susan. I'm Jody Miller. I am the CEO of C2C Strategic Management, and I'm known as the Work Happiness Expert. And today I'm going to be talking about the retain portion of our webinar, and I wanted to welcome everyone and thank you all for being here. So back to you, Susan.
Okay, so just to jump right in with employment branding and recruitment marketing, we're going to be covering some marketing strategies to recruit top talent faster. First, what I want to do is cover the current talent market. As many of you know, the unemployment rate right now is about 4.1%. So that is why, of course, we're having a very tough time recruiting talent at this point. The U.S. job openings have hit a new high at 6.2 million, with the average cost to hire just over $4,200 per hire. Also, what's happened now is there's very much a transparent job market, and that's different than years past. 64% of the applicants will research a company before applying. So a lot of the candidates will have 18 sources of information, generally between 12 and 18 sources about your company before they even apply. 7 to 8 company reviews is what they'll look at, and an overall 7 to 10 touches with your company before they make a decision to apply for your company. So only 28% of the companies have actually made employer branding a priority. There's a lot of opportunity here. If you don't have employer branding in place and recruitment marketing, this is your chance to make that happen and really stand out from the competitors. Another thing that's a little bit different nowadays than in the past is the candidate journey. There are many touch points. In the past, it was more of a straight line from researching a company, maybe just a little bit, send a resume, and then start the interview process. Now, a candidate will journey through many touch points, and as I just mentioned, and these will range from tweets and reading testimonials, being part of a talent network, and then reading emails or attending events. So there's a lot here that they may go through, including looking at Glassdoor before they even apply. So the question becomes, what are you doing to promote your company through all of these various touch points? Do you have a consistent message? So that's very important to be aware of right now. Candidates are very much looking for culture. In fact, 80% of millennials are going to look at culture fit before career potential. And 69% of job seekers, they're more likely to apply if you manage your employer brand. They want to see that now. They want to see the messages about your company and who you are, and they want to see testimonials from your employees and understand how you work with charities in the community, what your initiatives are. All of that plays a part now with candidates reviewing you before they apply for a role. They also want a lot of testimonials now. 78% say that ratings and reviews from those inside the company are influencing them when they're deciding where they want to work. So 3 in 4 job seekers, they want to hear from the current employees, the management, the executive team. That's really important. And they will read at least 6 reviews before they even form an opinion about a company. So it's really a new world right now. What I always want to say is, hey, recruiting, it's time to meet marketing. Because in the past, it was strictly recruiting and marketing was really a separate division at a lot of companies. Now we're in a situation where the recruiting team and the marketing team really need to work together because everything is changing. Years ago, we would just advertise a job, you reach out to a few, and you pick the one you want, you hire them, the rest, you just close the rec and you're done. And you don't really look at that talent or keep in touch with them. Now it's a very different world. You want to generate leads, and then you want to really profile the individuals coming in and put them in pipelines, and you want to nurture them. You want to keep in touch with all of these people who expressed some kind of an interest in your company. You want to connect with them for potential future opportunities. And that's what we'll get into a little bit more right now as well. The future recruiting model really focuses on 3 aspects. You want it to be brand-led, relationship-based, and data-driven. Brand-led, meaning you want to have your employer brand front and center. You want to be able to have some content and stories about your company and what you're doing and your achievements and how you help the community. You want all of that out there as part of your employer brand. And you want to be consistent across all the platforms with your message about who you are. You want to be relationship-based. And that's really having a candidate pipeline, being in touch, connecting with people who are interested in your company. Emails are useful information that go out to them. And there's other ways you can reach out to them to keep in touch with them. But the other piece is you want to be data driven. You want to track your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and you want to know what's working, what isn't working, what's really resonating with candidates. And that helps you drive the future with all of your tactics, your recruitment marketing tactics. Now, I mentioned employment branding. I want to make sure everyone is very clear on that because unless you do have a marketing background, a lot of times people are not really clear on it. Branding is really a name, a symbol, or a feature that differentiates your company, your product, or your service. With branding, you can attract and retain loyal customers, which is really critical in competitive markets. And then also, it kind of explains who you are and who you want to be and people's perception of who you are. That's your brand. And a lot of people throw the word branding and brand around very loosely, and they say, oh, we want a brand. And really what they're saying is they want a logo. Well, a brand is much more than just your logo. Now, employment branding is basically all of that around branding, but how it pertains to the workforce, how people perceive you as an employer, and how they feel about your company in the world of work. So you have employment branding. So that's everything that you put out there about your company, who you are, and why people may want to work for you. And that has to be established and communicated in a very consistent fashion. Why employment branding? Well, a solid employer brand can bring you more qualified applicants, 50% more. You're going to save money on PR and recruiting if people start to know who you are and you have a good reputation as an employer. You'll have a faster time to fill for your roles. You'll also have 28% reduction in turnover. So it impacts your company in many different ways. Nowadays, there's really 4 steps in the new recruiting process. You want to attract, engage, nurture, and convert. So the first part, when you're wanting to attract candidates, you want to focus on things like your job ads, but also events and SEO and your social media. How are you getting the word out? For engaging, you want to be thinking of like your career site, job site, your talent network, to engage people. You also want to look at referrals and having a referral program to engage more and more candidates. When you nurture candidates, what that involves is having emails that go out and are connecting with people who've been interested in your company in the past. You want to have your ATS system really set up to work as a CRM. So you're really connecting with these individuals. You're sending messages and information and content, as well as to your talent networks. You can also look at newsletters that are going out. But these are ways you're keeping in touch and nurturing leads from the marketing side. And in this case, you're nurturing talent from the recruiting side. When you convert, that's where you want the job alerts to go out about specific jobs. You want to have calls to action, apply for this job or join our talent network. So these are different things you want to be doing to convert your candidates. And then also you want to track metrics to see what's really working and then use that information to refine all of the marketing that you're doing. Okay, so for attracting and engaging talent, you want to really think of all the different ways you can reach people. How will talent find you? So think of blogs as one opportunity. You want continually new content on those blogs so you're found in the Google searches. You want employee sharing, very important, that you put together specific content that you want your employees to have so they can share it with others through their own social networks. People will believe some of what a company puts out in terms of their information about what they do in their culture and their opportunities. But if they hear specifically from your employees, that makes a huge impact and a huge difference. So it's very important that you put together as an HR team, some great video, some great testimonials, some footage and photographs from events, from departmental meetings, and from parties to celebrate success or charity events. And get all of that out there and let your people know they can forward it. So they know it's okay to forward and they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to say anything about the company. I might get in trouble if I say the wrong thing. So that's really important for the employee sharing aspect. Your social platforms really have to be up to speed. You need to be communicating on that. And whether HR does it or marketing does it, or you combine someone from HR and marketing and have a little committee, it's important to be having messages going out all the time for your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Glassdoor, and your company website. And also, you want to look at building a separate career site as part of your website. That's all about careers at your company. I did already mention video, but it's a great way to connect with people. Up to 80% of the internet will be video within 5 years. So do not underestimate the value of video. Whenever we run campaigns for clients, when we put something out that's even a very short video, we will see 5 times the clicks than when we run ads and posts, even with graphics on it. So the video is a great way to go. So keep that in mind. Also, here's just a couple of ideas and examples, really, like from Facebook and LinkedIn. With Facebook, you can put a job listing out there. I think a lot of people don't even know it's there. You have to actually turn on the function through Facebook. If you look on the bottom left, there's a little highlight that says jobs. You can actually turn that on. Then you can place your jobs there. And what happens is the internet will serve up the information about your jobs if somebody is searching and there's a correlation. So it's another great place to put your jobs is on your Facebook jobs section for your company. LinkedIn career page, amazing way to promote your company. It's a separate function that you have to set up, the career page. It's a little bit of a fee each month that you pay, but it's well worth it because by having a career page, it's another place to put a lot of material, information, photos, videos, testimonials, and you can really share about who you are as a company. And it makes a big impact on people looking for opportunities. You also want to take a look at these. These are just some examples. United Airlines, they have a career page, very robust, a lot of information and photographs. Also, make sure you're looking at your Glassdoor review. That's very important. Put information out there. Reach out to your employees and say, listen, if you're happy here, help us to find more amazing people to join our company and to build our organization. Please write something on Glassdoor and give them the link so they can write about your company and give you a review. Now, I know some people are hesitant to use Glassdoor because they're like, well, what if we get a bad review? Well, if there is a negative review, as an HR department, you want to really have a predetermined, direction on how you handle that. And one thing to keep in mind is, if there's a negative review about working there and you can address it honestly, authentically, then go ahead and do that. If somebody's complaining about something, you can respond to that on Glassdoor. And people respect that. If you as a company step up and say, yes, we do, have some concerns with our health benefits. We are currently re-examining them and we'll have changes for next year, or whatever the issue is, you can address it. If it's more of just a gripe and a negative kind of a thing, and you decide you don't want to address it, that's fine too. But the thing is, get some of those good reviews out there from the employees who are happy working with your company. Okay, so even the basics, when you think about recruitment marketing, maybe you're thinking, my God, there's all this marketing stuff. I'm a recruiting person. I'm an HR person, maybe. I don't really know all this marketing stuff. But look at even the basics. Take a look at your job postings. We did this one time at a company I was with, and we were just like amazed at how we were wording things. And that some of the information wasn't even accurate. So really check those job postings, make sure they're accurate, meet with the hiring managers, and make sure they're written in a way that's enticing and engaging for people. That's where you can work with a copywriter or talk to your marketing team. But take a look at this first one and then the second one, required skills. Perform effectively in a demanding work environment. You'll be held accountable. My God, that's scary. I don't even want to work there. I don't want to apply for that job. Look at the guy cringing. That's my little cartoon of the guy cringing. But take a look at the next one. And, it's revised copy. It's very engaging and it's very on brand for this particular company. You can tell the story of a product with sharp copy and crisp imagery. You love seeing the world through someone else's eyes and building an interface. So that kind of conversation, that kind of engaging copy, you want to describe the roles that way. So that is your first sort of step in just getting good people and getting the right people in for your culture. With engaging and nurturing, you want to really think about those talent networks. 78% of candidates say they would join a talent network and they would share information with a potential employee. But the only problem is only 19% of companies actually have a talent network. Do you have a talent network? You have an opportunity here to gather information, to stay in touch with top candidates. All you need to do is get that set up and you will stand out from the crowd. Referrals. Do you have a strong referral program? 62% of employees come from referrals. So that is huge. You want to make sure that you have a strong referral program. And I talk to clients all the time. They go, oh, yeah, we have a referral program. The only problem is nobody in the company knows about it. So if you have a referral program, that's great. You have to market and communicate your referral program. Make sure you're doing that as well. That's very critical, that you're promoting it. You're letting people know, how does it work? How do you submit referrals? And what's in it for you? Do you have a bonus for them? The other thing to remember, whenever you do anything on social media, it's the 70-20-10 kind of rule, particularly for the recruitment marketing. Only 10% is going to be about the jobs. This job is open, apply now. Then 20% is going to be more company-specific information. Our successes, we got a new deal. This is our picnic. This is our charity event. Then 70% of what you send out should be general information, just about the recruiting world, about the industry you're in, some of the trends, that type of content that people would be very interested in. Here's the first case study I want to cover just briefly to give you an idea. This is recruitment marketing across company divisions. So this was working with Chamberlain College of Nursing, which is now the largest nursing school in the United States with over 25,000 active nursing students. And what we had done in the past was job fairs. And with these job fairs, we were putting dollars out with email that we would, send out. We put money into an agency. We do direct mail. We bought lists. And then the day of the event, there was time involved. So we'd have the campus deans and presidents giving up their time to be at the job fair and to meet potential candidates. Well, most of the time, we would only get about 18 candidates. And out of that amount, we generally hire about 2 people. The cost was about $5,500. So what I said is, well, wait, who else is talking to the same people we want to hire? At that point, we were hiring MSN prepared nurses to come in to the college and serve as nursing professors. So what I did was I said, well, there's a whole division here at the company that is the sort of sales and development team. They're out meeting with hospitals and talking with top nurses. And these are the exact people we'd love to have come in and teach as a professor. So what I did was I connected with the other division, the sales and development division, said, hey, what if we develop a sort of a email referral campaign and you send it to everybody that you know that's on your email list and just let them know, hey, we're hiring. If you're interested in teaching part-time as a nursing professor, we're hiring, and give us a shout. Reach out directly to our recruiters and let us know. We sent the email out. We sent a follow-up one a few days later. So 2 emails went out, and we had 13 qualified applicants in 1 week. Out of the 13, we hired 10. There was no cost. And again, this was a hard to fill position. So recruitment marketing is also putting on that marketing hat and thinking, how can we market? How do we cross promote? And that's where it's good to have somebody who really knows recruiting and really understands marketing. And that's a great a skill to kind of cross promote with. One other case study to cover is with OfficeMax. This was several years ago, and they were moving their headquarters. They were here in the Chicago area where I'm based, and they were moving the headquarters at that point. They wanted to hire about 1,000 people for their new location. And what I suggested to them was, have they considered doing an internal job fair? And they were, like, well, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? And so I explained to them, the idea would be, why not look at all of your retail employees throughout the Chicago area? They had so many locations locations here, retail locations. And what I suggested was, take a look at those people working in retail, reach out to them and promote this as an event where they would have an opportunity to move to the corporate location and have a corporate role, which I think most people in retail would jump at that opportunity if they want to really build their career. So I set up a job fair for OfficeMax at the corporate level. We held it for 2 days and we promoted it across all of their retail locations. And so we had hundreds of the retail employees coming to corporate to interview. And what we did is set up a job fair where each table at corporate represented a different department. So there was a table for marketing jobs, a table for operations jobs, a table for the IT jobs. And what we did is basically did an internal job fair. We hired over 300 people. And not only was this great for getting the seats, the roles filled, but it was an awesome sort of PR and culture move because so many people had a great feeling then about the company really moving them up and giving them opportunities to develop their career. So these are the types of things that you want to be thinking about in terms of the recruitment marketing. So that is my company, Strategic and Creative Marketing, a little bit of information for you on employment branding, recruitment marketing. We have something called the Recruitment Marketing Snapshot. We offer it for free, and it is 3 expert tips to immediately boost your recruiting quickly. So we'll come in and basically do a conversation, an audit of what you're doing, give you 3 tips immediately that you can put to work that can help your company. So if you want to find out more, there is the contact information. I'm happy to talk with you. Give me a call or reach out on email. And then right now, what I want to do is go ahead and introduce Jody B. Miller. And she is going to focus on, once you recruit this amazing talent, how do you keep them? How do you retain them? And how do you create that amazing culture that people will be happy in? Jody, take it away.
Thanks, Susan. That was really great information about how you can create a brand so that you can recruit top talent to any company. Thought it was really great. And everyone, I just want to let you know that my presentation will go about 15 minutes. I'm going to talk about the retaining side of that top talent, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So get your questions ready because we're really excited to answer them. So a little bit about me before we get started. I am have become known as the work happiness expert. I've had a pretty varied career over the years. I started in television. I had a software company. I was an investment banker, and I've done a lot of corporate strategy work over the last 14 years for global corporations around the world. And I write, I speak around the world. I host a podcast. I do some happiness tips, and I just really am focused on happiness at work and retaining top employees. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So really it starts out with there are 3 types of employees, and you can see here from a Gallup poll. This is an old one, but it's still pretty consistent. You have your engaged employees, and those are the ones who really, they want to seek out extra work because they're passionate about their work. They're really engaged with the company. They believe in the vision. They believe in the mission, and they're very open with their communication. It's sort of like almost a flat kind of organizational feel, an open door policy, and they feel that, and they're open with their communication. And they also connect with others, which is really key. And you'll even see them smiling more around the office. These are obviously your most ideal employees and who we want to have on board across the board. Then we have those that aren't engaged. Those are the type of employees that might stay in their office, close the door, not talk to many people, not socialize at lunch, maybe only have 1 or 2 friends. And those are the ones really are at risk for leaving the company. And then we have the third group, which is really the toxic group. And those are the actively disengaged employees. And those are the ones that they really want everyone else to be miserable because they're miserable. So they'll gossip, they'll complain, they'll start to create sort of an ill negative feeling around the office. And that's just, those people need to be addressed right away. And later in the presentation, I'm going to show you when we get to a final way of tracking employee engagement, how you can identify those people and really help them turn around. I did a workshop not too long ago for a global company, and one of the people in the workshop was very disgruntled, I would say, but through some great activities and games that are really designed to honor authenticity, value input, celebrate diversity, and elicit ideas, we turned this employee employee around, or I should say he turned himself around through these science-based and behavioral psychology-based activities. And instead of being a complainer, he ended up taking on the role of the voice of reason, and he aggregated everyone's input, and he summed up the group's vision. And then he started initiating positive discussions and actionable ideas. And so he became the facilitator, and I literally saw him change right before my eyes into a confident leader instead of someone that always was combative. So there are ways that you can change those kinds of employees, and again, later I'll show you how you can identify them. So now I'd like to move on to some stats that will help you in your effort to get your board of directors, your CEO, or if you're a CEO on this presentation, give you more meat to really go after work happiness, which is very, very important to the bottom line. If you look at this statistic from Gallup, 51% of U.S. workers are not engaged in their work. It used to be almost 2/3. So 51% is actually an improvement, but it's still half, and that's not good. Disengaged employees cost organizations a lot of money, in the billions, and they also cause loss in productivity, many, many billions of dollars. And so keeping your employees happy is really, really key to the bottom line. Also, the cost of losing an employee can be between 16% to 213% of their salaries. I've worked with thousands of people trying to find meaning in their work, whether they went to Harvard or they never went to college. I've dealt with everyone from every generation over the last 14 years. And what I found, let's say it's a person who's a rainmaker, a salesperson, maybe an investment banker, that can go into the millions of dollars of loss for the company because it costs money to bring new talent onboard them, and they need a 12 to 18 month window to really start to bring in revenue. So it's a big issue, and that's why it's so important to focus on employee engagement in the workplace. It is a very, very solid investment that more and more companies are making. Why do people leave? Here are just some general ideas. Obviously, some people don't feel like they're secure in their job. That's really a small piece. Work-life balance, that's become a big issue in the workforce, and we'll talk about some companies who are addressing that. Management, big one. Management's a big one. Lack of fit in the job, pay and benefits, and of course, limited career advancement. So sometimes it's money, but really money is not the major one. The two major reasons people leave are leadership, because they feel like there's a lack of direction and a feeling that they don't matter. And the biggest reason on top of leadership is lack of connection with others. That is a key reason why people leave. A recent study of more than 600,000 researchers, entertainers, politicians, and athletes found that high performers in a company are 400% more productive. So you want people to be happier at work. Not only are they more productive, which goes again to the bottom line, they're healthier, they're more creative, they want to work with others, they suffer less from stress, and they end up contributing more to the organization. So how do you save money and increase revenues, right? You focus on employee engagement. And how do you do that? This is what I've come up with over the last 14 years. This is based on science, research, statistics, and theoretical application, which is actually me going in to companies and measuring this with employees and leaders of companies. And I call it the 5 M's: management, mission, meaning, movement, and measurement. And we'll take those one at a time, and I'll try and get through those quickly. So do you have any of these types in your company? The bully. So the bully is usually the one who has the sufficient social skills to figure out who and how they need to coerce, basically, to get ahead on the job. They have no compunction about being aggressive. They yell, they intimidate, and they create fear in their employees. So no one speaks up because they're afraid they're going to get bullied and yelled at. So no one is stepping outside their comfort zone. So, and also they don't really care who they run over. So how do you deal with a bully that might be a manager in your company, or even could be an employee in a high-ranking position? You need to help them realize, first understand where they're coming from and why they might feel pressure from above, but also help them to understand that even though they're putting everything on their staff and making their staff accountable, that they are accountable too. And that adhering to the same guidelines that they set for their employees and taking responsibility for both the team's successes and failures will only improve employee engagement on their team, because employees feel like that if their boss has their back, then they're going to be more comfortable, they're going to be more confident, and they will produce better work, and they will stay. So the bully is someone you actually can turn around. Have you ever seen this person? I remember when I was an investment banker, I actually had a boss like this who used to call me at 6 in the morning when I was in the shower, talk to my husband and say, Jody's very difficult to get a hold of. And micromanagers can be really, really annoying. They have a need to control. They almost, have you ever had someone in your company insist on being CC'd on all your emails or putting the last touch on your presentation because they don't believe that you can do it? They want everything to be perfect. And so they end up creating themselves as that bottleneck for process, and then no one feels like they have any authenticity or control over their own lives. And what happens is once these types of managers, micromanagers, get in a management role, see, they're no longer doing the job they did before and that they were good at, but they think they still know it the best. And so that ends up being a real problem, and they probably have anxieties and insecurities about being a manager too. So how can you help micromanagers? You need to sit them down again and understand where they're coming from and what anxieties they have, and then help them learn to delegate. Delegation is really the key to having more employee engagement on a micromanaging team. Have them not interfere in the day-to-day process and the minute-to-minute workflow of their employees, because when an employee feels that they're trusted, then they are going to put forward their best work, and they will start to thrive in that environment. The narcissist. The narcissist is a really interesting one. All they care about is their own advancement. I have to tell you, I was like this in my first job in television. I wanted so much to climb that corporate ladder at 24 years old that I pushed everyone out of the way. And I was the top performer by far. Out of 10 people on the sales and marketing team, I ended up outperforming all of them combined. I thought this was great. It really wasn't, because I had too high of expectations on my assistant. I told her she had to be perfect. I asked for things in 10 minutes. It took her basically sitting me down and saying, I am being really unrealistic and I'm not being compassionate. And so that really changed me for the rest of my working life. I became a compassionate person. I became more of a helper versus someone who was out for themselves. And I became more successful because of it. So this is how you can help someone who's a narcissist, which I'm not anymore. And you just get them to become more of a helper. You get them to become more compassionate, which is the opposite of self-centeredness, and get them to understand other people's pain and have them gain that feeling, that desire to help others, because everyone will benefit together. So that's one way to handle a narcissist in your company. Here's another type manager, the frazzled. The frazzled manager usually feels that they have to do it all, or only they can do it, and so they don't trust their employees. And this leads to their fear of failure in their team, because the leader is experiencing their own fear of failure. So it's just a mess of chaos. And then there's no clear direction. It creates stress, and stress undermines their ability to work and the team's ability to work. So one way to help a frazzled manager is to help them to focus on the present and to know that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to trust your people and know that they can make a mistake too, because you are all going to learn in the process. So if you create a safe place for failure, not only for that manager, but for the team, you will see people work outside the box on creativity and come up with amazing ideas, and the entire team will win. This, of course, is the kind of manager, the mentor coach that we all want to be. We all strive for, but it doesn't come naturally to everyone. This is the foundation, though, for creating a great team. And the one rule that a mentor coach knows is that they have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and they listen twice as much as they talk. And that is really a key part of being a mentor coach. Another part of being a great mentor coach is to look for opportunities to teach your team, to train them, to enhance their skill set. And also, one thing that I've helped companies do when I go in to help redesign corporate cultures is to have individual development as actually part of the job description, so that that person always feels like they're having someone supporting their learning, their advancement. And that's really, really important in building confidence and employee engagement in the workplace. So how do you show your employees that you care? Now that we've talked about different kinds of managers and how you can mold those managers into better managers, into more of that mentor coach kind of manager, how do you show your employees that you care about them? Well, number one, you want to have clarity in your mission. You really want to have a mission that's very, very clear, that people know that someone is basically steering the ship, and that because if leadership doesn't know where a project or a company is headed, then how can the employee know? So it's really important for confidence in your employees to know that someone is clear and that they are leading the entire charge. So having clear direction and a clear mission is very important for employee engagement, because people want to know that someone knows where they are going. M is for meaning. People want to know that they matter, and one way to show them is to give recognition and praise, but be specific about it. In a study in Entrepreneur, 65% of employees said they'd be happier if they got recognition, versus 35% said they'd be happier if they got a raise. So recognition, specific recognition on a particular thing that they're doing with their job versus just great job, goes a long way. People immediately feel better about themselves. So be really relevant with your recognition and praise, as well as your feedback. I mean, because most employees, in fact, really all employees, want to improve, they want to grow, they crave development, and they create mentorship from their managers. And here's a way to show them that they care and that there's meaning. So watch again for those opportunities to teach, to provide support, to train your employees. And again, that individual development is part of their job. So these are just different ways that you can show your people that you care more. I think meaning multiplied is probably the best way to show your employees that they matter, and it is the best way to create a happy and engaged workforce. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by this. What do synchronous fireflies, chickens, and Albert Einstein have in common with meaning and a great workforce? Well, Professor Hugh Smith from Washington State in 1935 discovered something about fireflies. How fireflies mate is that the male firefly will light up, and he hopes that the female firefly, who's on the ground, the male firefly is in the tree, will notice him and want to mate with him. But there wasn't a lot of success going on. And so what Hugh Smith saw in 1935 was that in this mangrove forest, an entire tree of fireflies was lighting up at the same time. And then the next tree lit up when they saw the first tree light up. And this went all the way down the banks of the river, one after another, again and again and again, exactly at the same time. And what he learned, that there was actually order from this chaos, and that when they all did this together, that they attracted more females by a 50% greater attraction rate. And so this ended up being an amazing study, that working together was more productive than flashing alone, than shining alone. So we're much better working together in the work environment versus just trying to shine our own light. When we look at the chicken example, there was a researcher named William Muir, and William Muir wanted to create super chickens. So he took the chickens who laid the most eggs and he mated them. And for 7 generations, he created these superpowered chickens. And then for his control group, he just had normal chickens that were laid some eggs and some laid great eggs. Well, you would think that the super chickens would outperform everyone else, just like the superstar in the sales team would. But what happened is that they were so overzealous that they pecked each other to death, and all but 3 died. He had to stop the experiment. Whereas the control group thrived because they had diversity, they worked together as a team, and they didn't have one person having to compete with another. Instead, they collaborated. And so this is another example that can be used in the workplace. Finally, Albert Einstein Did you know that he had 1,900 patents? But there is no evidence in history that any one of those patents did he create alone. He created it with the help of his team, with other inventors. And with the help of being together in a team and working together, we're more creative, we're more productive, and we become a better company, and we become more engaged and connected and happier at work. So those are just 3 examples that you could use in the workplace. This is a company I love a lot. It's a private company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, and they give an award. Again, it's more about working together, helping others, being a collaborator versus going it alone. And I'd just like you to watch this short video from the CEO.
So our Avengers Award comes from the cartoon, the superhero cartoon. And the slogan of alone we can do good, but together we can do great. What we have found is that it takes an Avenger. It takes what we call a servant leader, someone who's out there, who finds powers, who identifies their special powers, and finds a way to help others in the company. And that is why we succeed as a business.
I just love that story about NextJump and how they really celebrate people helping others. Again, it's working together as a team, it's helping others, it's collaborating. That's where employee engagement rises, and that's where the success of your company really comes from. Let's move on to M is for movement. So sure, money can motivate your people and show them that you care. Title, advancement, everyone wants to advance. Providing more challenges and more responsibility in the workplace. All of these are very, very important in terms of helping your employees be more engaged, creating happier workforces, and creating a more successful company. Here is another way that you can invest in your employees: perks. Salesforce is probably at the top. I had the top 10, and I just decided to include Salesforce because they really covered everything. And they give a lot of extras to their employees. But you don't have to do a lot of things as long as you're paying attention and letting your employees know that they matter and that they have freedom to be creative. But perks are also nice. And for example, we work with a company, we partner with a company that not just helps refinance student debt, they actually put in a program where they help the employer to pay off student debt, because right now studies show that students are holding between $40,000 and $100,000 worth of debt. And so a perk like helping repay student debt can be very, very helpful. So that's just another way you can help your employees know that they care. Finally, the last M is for measurement. I think this is so important. Real-time measurement of employee happiness is how you track happiness and productivity on a consistent basis, and you can head off potential exits. Let me explain how it works. This is a platform that we use, that we bring into companies, and it's amazing what happens. This is what the employee sees. They get a question twice a day. It's volunteer. Am I happy here? Yes, I'm happy here. I wish there were more learning opportunities. I'm happy with my position, don't want any more responsibility. I'm a startup person. I'll probably start my own company soon. And these, they volunteer, and they receive different kinds of questions, again, based on neuroscience and behavioral psychology, twice a day. And what you see is a dashboard. And on this dashboard, there are 4 areas. You have a flow chart in the upper right, which I'll explain, recommendations in the upper left, pillars, which are what are measured, and then a trust factor. These are the 7 areas that are measured with employee measurement. So you want to make sure that the employee feels like their goals are clear. Again, that relates to open communication, clarity of leadership from their manager or the CEO or the head of the division. They want to have continuous feedback. Are they getting it? They want more social interaction. You can track this real time every day. They want balanced challenges, a sense of improvement, and a risk attitude. How much do they want to risk? You can track this on a daily basis. And of course, employees want to feel like they have a sense of control. This is your most important chart. This is called the flow chart. The purple zone is the stress zone. This means someone is overworked, they have too much on their plate. So you would want to pay attention to that person in the stress zone and probably sit down with them, incorporate some changes into their workday. You can actually pinpoint exactly the day that they felt that, and maybe some extra challenges that the manager had given them. And so you can really manage that. And then you can also take a lot of people in a certain segment, like the blue zone, which is the comfort zone. There are some people here that are kind of a little bit bored. And so you really want to address those people because they're not challenged enough. And in this particular, I worked with a company, we had a lot of people in this zone. We did a workshop for those people. They were different divisions, different generations, different job descriptions, and we created a challenge workshop, which was very, very successful. And they ended up getting into the yellow zone, which is the flow zone. That's where you want to see your employees most of the time. The red zone is the learning zone. You do want your employees to learn, but you don't want them to be overwhelmed with learning. And then finally, the green zone is the performance zone. And so you want them to perform, but you don't want them to be so overwhelmed with performance that they're not in the flow. Because when you're in flow, you're into your whole creativity, you're not stressed, you're not bored, you're not overworked, you're just very highly, highly productive. So this is going to be the chart that you look at the most if you used a system like this. And then recommendations will come up based on that person. These are simple recommendations. Again, there are other ways that you can address this, which I'll talk about in a moment, such as workshops. Workshops are a way to address different ways you measure employees and who's falling off and out of the zone. You can bring in someone to do it outside the company. You can do it yourself. The number one workshop that I deliver to companies is the Work Happiness Workshop, because really it's a very light, fun, interactive workshop where people feel they're laughing, they're having fun, but it's based on science and behavioral psychology, and they're actually connecting without even realizing it and coming up with really, really cool ideas. So again, you could do it yourself or bring in a neutral third party, and it's really important to have the manager of the team or the division be part of it and participate, because then that gives the team a better feeling that they're all in it together. Here are some other workshops you can do. I always recommend that you do them in order, or like, for example, the Misogi of Idea Innovation is sort of the deepest dive. That's the one I do. That's usually the fourth workshop, but the Work Happiness one is always a really fun, light, but very revealing workshop that's very, very successful. So in summary, what does it mean to have engaged employees? It's employees that meet your needs of the organization. They take initiative. They're proactive. They reinforce and support the organization's culture, and they are in the flow, like I showed you in the chart. And they're focused, and they love what they do. And most important, they believe that they can make a difference. And that's what we all want for our companies. So I hope that you found this helpful. I'm Jody Miller, the Work Happiness Expert. You can find out more about me at jodybmiller.com, the workshops, the speaking I do. I actually have a monthly newsletter you can subscribe to, which has a bunch of great stuff. And finally, for being here today, we wanted to thank you for attending. We will be sending you a free ebook about employee branding, a free strategy report for managers who want to become more of that mentor coach type manager that I talked about, and a free employee engagement activity guide, which is going to give you specific things you can do with your teams to help them be more engaged, collaborate with each other, and be more productive in the workplace. So thank you again for attending. I think we're going to open up to Q&A, and I'm going to turn it back to Susan.
Okay, everybody, we have a little bit of time here for some Q&A. This is Susan, and we do have some questions already coming in. So we're going to jump right in and start to answer them. One question was about where the data is from for the presentations, some of the statistics. So for my presentation, a lot of the data came from MRI Network, from the 2016 Recruiter and Employer Sentiment Report. Also, a lot of the data was Glassdoor, Telemetry, and Smashfly. They have Transform Academy, which is all about recruitment marketing. So that is where a lot of the data came from. And everyone will get a link of the recording that we'll be sending out tomorrow. And today we will be sending out the special gifts that we did mention to everybody on the emails. There's an ebook on recruitment marketing. There's also an employee engagement activity from Jody, and from Jody an ebook about coaching and mentoring. So look for those tomorrow, and then today you'll get a link to the whole recorded webinar. For some of the questions, One question in particular was about Jody was talking about different types of managers and how to help them become more like mentors or coaches. But how do we handle an employee that spreads unhappiness in the office? So that question I'm going to hand over to Jody.
Great, thanks, Susan. So I spoke a little bit about that workshop I did where we turned around a sort of a combative employee, which I think was really effective because he actually turned himself around. But some of the strategies you can use if you're finding someone that's very disruptive and you kind of need to pull them aside and chat with them is to do it in a positive way. And some things to keep in mind, again, I mentioned before as a good mentor coach, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen twice as much as you talk. Make really good eye contact when you're having this conversation. Don't sit behind your desk. If you have like a small round table in your office, don't sit in a conference room. Make it a more intimate conversation so that they are not have their back up against the wall. Make good eye contact, show them that you're interested and that you're engaged in what they have to say, and then express positive emotion by smiling and nodding and even like giving a, yeah, that's great, some hand movements, and make enthusiastic comments like, that sounds great, wow, that sounds like you're really turning things around and your hard work is really being noticed and it's paying off. And then move to constructive questions to find out more about the positive aspects of what's going on for them instead of focusing on the negative. And then again, enforce the positive. And if you do that, you'll start to turn that person around in the office.
Thanks, Jody. Another question coming in is about hiring managers. How do we get them on board for helping to find great talent, great candidates? So I will take this one, and basically it's sort of a company initiative that I think has to happen, where the company really gets the various divisions on board with the recruiting and HR team and explains that it's up to everyone in the company to help to find great talent and at least to create that awareness. And so every time a job is posted for a certain division, then that division, the head person, could send that job opportunity out to their team and say, please post this on your social media networks and share it with your network to increase the referrals. The next question is, there's a question for Jody again about what exactly happens in a work happiness workshop and what comes out of it.
Oh, yeah, I love this question. When people consider doing this workshop, I get this question a lot. So what goes into it is it's a very comfortable roundtable kind of workshop that's done in smaller to medium groups, usually no more than 20. And it starts out with a lot of science and statistics and some case studies and some funny things that are thrown in there, like what some crazy CEOs are doing to increase employee engagement, and it gets everyone laughing. And then we go through an activity that gets people to focus on or to understand who they present themselves in the workplace, because we all put on our work face, and then how others respond to them or think of them in the workplace. So that's sort of like the reflection of you, and then who you really are. And we do an exercise, an activity that goes deep but is very fun, and people really discover who they are, and they identify themselves with something that represents them, and then we create a word that describes them. And what happens every single time I do an interactive whiteboard is that an entire company ends up being in that room. And it's a big aha moment. It happens every time because there's so much diversity when people's true, authentic personalities come out. And then we move on to some more interactive games. I use a card game that's based on neuroscience and behavioral psychology that each person gets to be the executive, the managers involved. It's very transformational. And what comes out of it is people are happy. People hug at the end. I've never had one where people don't hug each other at the end. People are laughing. People feel more connected. And most important, they come up with ideas themselves as we go through these exercises and games of how to solve issues that they're facing. And it's really fun for me to see these groups completely transform. And that's sort of what happens in a work happiness workshop.
Thanks, Jody. Another question for you is, what are some of the simple things a company can do right away to improve employee connectivity?
Sure. I mean, I can go general with, put your people first, create a safe place where people can step outside their comfort zone, have clear information. People want to know what's going on, create opportunities for growth, those sorts of things. But real specific, I'll give you a couple examples that have worked with companies that I've worked with. One company came up with a solution called Open Door Fridays because they were lacking connection. Every Friday for 2 hours, everyone had to have their door open in the office, and you could visit 3 people for 10 minutes each, and you could never visit the same people again. If someone's office door was closed or they were on the phone, then the following month, this happened once a month, they had to have their door open all day. And so eventually, over about a 4-month period of time, everyone in the office got to know everyone, and it was really, really exciting for connectivity. Another idea that's worked really well, and this may sound kind of weird, is that one company put a giant puzzle in the middle of the office, and people could just come by and take pieces and put the puzzle together. But the messages on the puzzle were very cool, like, you are the reason we thrive. And so when the puzzle was done, everyone saw this great message, or it is because of you that we are a great company, and then it had the company logo. And then people would just, because puzzles are very, very engaging, and we're attracted to puzzles because we want to problem solve and we want to see the finished product, and we feel good when it's done. So that's another quick thing. And then one more quick example is one company put up a board in their kitchen area of a manager would have an idea or an issue they were dealing with, and people would put down solutions on the back of colored sticky pads anonymously, and then there'd be a voting period to move those over into good and great, and the few ideas that ended up in great were voted on and implemented in the office. And so those are just a few ideas of things you could do right now in your company that I've done with companies that have been transformational in terms of increasing employee engagement and collaboration in the workplace.
Okay, cool. One last question I think we have time for, and that's about recruitment marketing. What are the best items to start with if you don't have a recruitment marketing plan in place? I would say, the simplest way is to make sure that your website has information about your company, who you are, what are the opportunities there. Have a good overview on your little career link, and even better, build out that site if you can do that. The other thing is take a look at your job descriptions. If you don't have a lot of time or money to really build out a recruitment marketing plan, at least get with the hiring managers, really make sure those job descriptions are accurate and the job posts are engaging. That's one easy way to start. Another way is get a referral program of some sort going. Even if you don't have the money to reward people, at least get the positions out there to everyone in the department where the position is open, and just ask them, please forward this. Think about your friends and colleagues and, in the community that may be able to fill this role. So start that from sort of a homegrown vibe before you get into all the other elements that you can do for recruitment marketing. I think those are the quickest ways to start. So we want to say thank you to everybody for joining us, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions. We'd be happy to talk with you.